calling this. I figured welcome to whatever this is.
Writers Room Backstories, maybe?
Yeah, I like that. That's the Zoom meeting title, right? Writers Room Backstories.
Okay, you have to say that again because I don't remember what it's called.
Writers Room Backstories.
Okay, yeah. All right. Well, hello everybody. Thanks, listeners. This is Emily Ancinec, the voice of Julia Stonewash, and welcome to, I can't remember, what is it called? We're going to do this multiple.
I'm just going to leave this all in. I love it.
Backstories.
Writers Room.
Backstories, behind the scenes. So this is an opportunity for us to kind of explain the inspiration, maybe real life or just random things that inspired some of the stories that segments that you've come to know and love, or any jokes that everybody's particularly liked writing. So currently with us, we have Michael, Brian, Pilar, and so we're just going to kind of go around the room and talk about what our inspirations were, and then we're just kind of going to see where it goes. So thanks for listening. So who wants to go first?
I would love to hear about this overly large roast.
Yes.
Oh, well, I knew that was going to come up, or I thought it was going to come up. This is Brian. And that was definitely the one that I was going to pick to talk a little bit about what the inspiration was.
I'm supposed to bring the meat dish, but when I took the special roast out of the freezer, I just realized it was way too big. I need to cut it into at least a third in order for it to fit in the crock pot.
Right.
That one in particular, I really like because, as I started thinking about this stuff, I realized really at least for me, how small a thing it is that I need to just kind of get a seed of something and then a whole episode can be built around that, or a whole sketch. But this one was particularly interesting, and I liked it because the seed for that overly large roast, or I guess what it's become known as in the podcast, is Stubby Mics, right?
You want to know how I got to be called Stubby Mike?
Some friends of ours who actually live in Canada, where normally we visit, not this year, but what was that?
Canadian for our listeners who aren't aware of
Oh, that's right. Yes, I guess it's become pretty much well known now that I was originally from Canada. Anyway, so we visit with them. And this year, because we were unable to visit with them in the summer like we usually do, we've been occasionally calling them to have what we call virtual coffee sessions in the morning. So on one of those chats, our friend was just mentioning how she had a family gathering coming up, that she was tasked with preparing the main part of the meal. And she had this very large roast in the freezer, and she was talking to us about how she didn't really know what she was going to do with it because it was definitely way too big for this gathering, and she didn't want to waste it. So she needed to get it cut up, and she was already, I guess, had talked to a couple of people who had some suggestions, but everybody was really worried about whether there would be any butcher that would be willing to cut up this large frozen roast. And her husband was, who's also in on the call. He's quite a funny gentleman, and he had some funny suggestions about, well, maybe we could do it with a circular saw and things like that. So that was really just the seed of it. It's like, oh, here's this crazy problem. Who would have the problem of a huge frozen roast that they need to get cut into pieces? And that was really the central thing, and it just kind of grew from there. So we had a lot of fun with that.
That's fantastic. Yeah, it's easily, I think, probably, unless I know there's other real stories, but probably the most unusual, like one of our more unusual backstories. So who wants to go next?
I can go. I think it's probably well known at this point. Jollyville is the name of the literal name of the neighborhood that I live in. And after moving to Texas, it's been like, for whatever reason, I can't find a diner, like one that I like anyway from home, or just that kind of like Waffle House style. Like you walk in, it's dirty, you order eggs. It's open 24 hours, like one of those kind of places. I mean, there's an IHOP across the street, but I'm missing that like specific diner vibe, at least in the neighborhood, or like, kind of breakfasty place. And there was a First Watch, and First Watch is actually pretty clean, but there's a First Watch that opened nearby in the neighborhood, and I just remember like just getting so excited. And I think I texted Pilar, who also lives kind of in the neighborhood, "There's a new breakfast place in Jollyville!" And it was like, ah! Like I was so excited about this, and then just instantly I was like, what a 30-year-old thing to do, and just like so excited about this. And so anyway, so that's kind of what spiraled into that just bizarre skit that we did in episode 7. That was, just like, I think it was me, Kay, and Lizzie freaking out about a new breakfast place in Jollyville.
I bet they have good waffles.
I bet they have good coffee.
I bet there's free Wi-Fi.
Let's get breakfast.
That's fantastic. That's awesome. Pilar, how about you?
Shucks, I don't know if how like super hilarious it is, but I do remember writing a piece for, it's like, what is it? It's like Paul Frederickson, Better Call Paul.
Yeah.
And so Michael had started out writing this kind of thing of like, you call in with, like your fixer-upper kind of projects, and then somehow he magically like just knows about your life in the background and what kind of relationship advice you need. And I was trying to think of something, but I didn't want to keep on with like the romantic advice, and I just got fixated on like feet. And I like a lot of people have like contention with their feet, right? It's like, I don't want to wear sandals, I don't want to do this or that. And so trying to make like I had a friend who she did buy like a washer and dryer, and she did not measure her closet door, and so she was trying to figure out how to put those things into the closet, and just trying to make like a story that would match, like, well, like just tear it down and make a new genuine expression of yourself with your washer and dryer, and wear sandals, because you should have a good relationship with your feet versus ignoring them.
You're ignoring a relationship with your feet and ultimately yourself.
With myself?
Taking down a laundry closet door might seem unusual, but your custom painted washer and dryer are uniquely you, and they can be a wonderful centerpiece of your home. Wearing sandals might seem weird, but I bet you'd fit right in being your genuine self.
I love that. That's awesome. Yeah, but I don't have any like funny backstories. I just don't.
Wait, you mean History Chats wasn't inspired by real events?
No, it was not. I mean, it was. I have some great jokes, but my favorite jokes are inspired by real events, and we'll get to those later. But I have to give credit where credit is due. My dad gave me the inspiration for the aluminum foil joke in Carl Sagan's History Chat.
How much aluminium should I use to stop the aliens from reading my thoughts?
Mr. Sagan, I'm so sorry.
Considering my life's work, you're better off investing in something solid. 3 layers. Be sure not to wrinkle it.
And then my mom gave me the idea of long division as the topic for turkeys and icing, because I was like, listen, I need help. I was like, I'm doing this sportscasting thing, but I don't want it to be about sports because that's just too obvious. What's the most random, mundane thing you can think of? And she was like, a kid doing long division. It took a day. But I was like, I don't know how you got there. I'm just glad you did. So that's where that came from.
Today, we're watching Tamberley Kitchens prepare for battle. The Battle of Long Division.
So I have to give credit where credit is due. They helped me out with those segments. But yeah, my turkeys and icing is actually because I was like, I don't want it to be, again, I didn't want it to be overly sports. So I literally was like Googling just random. I had like a list of like 20 different titles that segment could be. And then I was like, I came across like turkey, which is 3 strikes in a row for those of you who don't know in bowling. And then I was like, that's perfect. And then icing is like sport is like a call in hockey when you go before the puck, when it crosses a certain line in the rink. And so I was like, that's perfect because it sounds like a cooking show, but it's not. It's about random people narrating people's lives as sportscasters. So that's where that came from. That's my most random inspiration because I was like, I don't want this to make sense. So there we have it.
All right, so this is Michael. I'm inserting this recording later. I'm with Uncle Asar, who couldn't be with us during the original recording, but still wanted to share some backstories because he's contributed some writing too. So, Asar, could you tell us about like how you came up with that phone tree episode or the voicemail episode?
The phone tree that actually happened. You know, when you reach a certain age, you have to have certain medical procedures, you know, on an annual basis.
Okay.
So I was trying to schedule that. And with COVID and everything, you had to be tested early, and I couldn't make during the week, and they could do it on the weekend, but it wasn't the right amount of days between. And then they called me, and they were supposed to call to see if it could be rescheduled with this and that. So then I ended up calling, and then I got lost in a phone tree. And usually, well, at least I'm used to, the first thing is they give you some options, and at the end they'll say, if you know your party's extension. Maybe that's the first thing they say. If you know your party's extension, you can dial it at any time. They didn't do that. They took me, you know, was around the corner, around the block to get to the corner. And finally, after like 5 menus, she says, if you know your party's extension. And I'm like, why didn't you say that to begin with? So I think you and I had a conversation, and it just came to me, and I was like, oh, this would be great. You know, and went from there.
Yeah. And then you also wrote the basis for the Tiny Desk concert. Or excuse me, to our NPR censors, trademark censors, our average size desk concert.
Yeah, because you and I were having a conversation about the Jollyville Brass Band. And I couldn't understand. I don't know. On your description, was it a quintet or a quartet? So that, you know, immediately sets up, you know, this comical thing in your mind. It's like they don't even know what they are. So I was like, well, what if they could be on Tiny Desk and, you know, get involved in this discussion or whatever and run out of time?
Yeah, and I guess if anybody remembers that skit who's listening, that the conversation is all accurate. Like all of the things that we say about the band is correct. Like we're a brass quintet, but we had 7 members at one point. You know, you don't normally count the percussionist, which you kind of don't. Like all that's true. The only thing that's like not true in that segment is that everyone who was in the band is voicing somebody else. So like right. Brian Green is playing Michael Crosa, which is me, and then Richard and other Brian Routson, they're like voicing each other. So that was an added little kind of inside joke of that.
The other part that helped me, what made it comical for me, was how you described the band. You said we're not a second line type of band. And someone had requested you guys, you know, march in this parade or something. And then you showed me the photos where somebody's on a truck and the other guys are marching and you got on cargo shorts and the music stand.
Guilty as charged.
So this is comedy gold. But you know, I've shared this story with Jollyville, with the Jollyville family before, about how community became to be. And you had approached me, I guess like you did everybody else, about being a part of this podcast. And you said, what did I want to do? And I didn't have any acting experience. You know, I've written some things, but, you know, I was like, well, anything I do, anything that I do is going to be social activism. And then you were like, okay. And then you came back to me with this idea, you know, because first of all, I'm like, do I really want to do this thing? So if I, you know, what I really want to do, maybe he'll just say, okay, well, we're not doing that. So then you came back and were like, okay, well, how about this, from the real world? And I'm like, he's gonna make me making it where I have to do it now. So then you let me come up with a name for it. And you accepted it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm in it, neck deep. No turning back. So then that's when I added all the, dig this, no one can do everything. And everybody, digs it, and then put the piece at the end. And nothing I did, it was like you rejected it. And I'm like, oh my.
Did you say that nothing you did got rejected?
Right. The intro, the questions, the end of it. It's like, yeah, okay. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't get out of this.
Yeah, you're trapped now.
Right.
Well, I mean, I think honestly, man, I think Community Beat is one of the favorite sections. I hear a lot of feedback that people love that. They're looking forward to it at the end. So, really, thank you for all of your contributions.
No, thank you, man. Thank you.
Let's fight each other with gratitude here. Happy Thanksgiving.
Because, secretly, I had always wanted to host a TV show, back in the day, every TV show, radio, whatever, because I listened to a lot of talk radio through the years. And like I said, the opportunity presents itself and it's like, do I really want to do this? Be careful what you wish for.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for giving us that insight, Asar. I'm gonna send it back to the main conversation, the main part of this little bonus episode here.
All right. Give everybody my best and dig this. No one can do everything, but everyone can do something. Peace.
So that's kind of our inspirations behind some of the stories. So I kind of also want to talk about some of our favorite jokes, because we all kind of write different segments. They could either be like standalone or recurring things. So if you have your favorite joke or two, would love to hear them, and maybe why it's your favorite joke.
Ooh, I got one that I'm so excited about because this kind of answers both questions. So my friend Thomas, who did a lot of the early writing and still comes up with some of the more bizarre lines or bits, sometimes unintentionally, and this is where this is going. One time I was talking to him about, he was talking about cooking for a large group and kind of made a self-deprecating joke of like, well, I hope they like pizza rice. That just sounds like pizza toppings on rice. And he says, that's exactly what it is. And that exact exchange, went into one of the skits, and pizza rice has become kind of this ongoing thing.
I'm presenting to you my famous pizza rice casserole.
That sounds like it's just pizza toppings on rice.
That's exactly what it is, Spoopy, but it's in a casserole dish. That's why they call me the Casserole Casanova.
One of the things I think is funny about it is that, like, when you say pizza rice, you know what it is. Like, you haven't had it, but you know what it is. and it's like goofy and silly, and I think that we make kind of like this overreaction to it.
I simply cannot accept pizza rice.
But I love that one, and I'm excited about continuing that one.
That's awesome. Yeah, the video is pretty great. The how to, like, for those of you who haven't seen YouTube. So if you've only heard us on other platforms, you should check it out. So, how about anyone else? What's your favorite joke that you've written or been inspired by? Or
well, I'm gonna go a little tangential on that. I actually wanted to talk a little bit about my favorite episode as opposed
perfect.
to my
That works.
Favorite joke. So I listened to most of them over again and was thinking through them, and I just kind of came hands down on the peril at Pat Penderson's, or was it Pat Penderson's peril?
I've listened most, like 3 or 4 times, just on repeat. It's fantastic.
It is. It's a really good episode, and then it dovetails with this whole inspiration thing to me, which is really what kind of helps push it over the top, because in that episode, I, Chauncey, and Michael, Spoopy the Boop, are having another episode of Spoopy and Chauncey in the morning. And Michael wrote that one, and he had picked up on this just like outrageous topic, which was ferret chinchilla hybridization project, which actually ties back to an earlier episode of Spoopy and Chauncey I had written. And I was bringing it to a close, and I was just thinking, well, I need to throw something in here about, maybe next time. And I just said, well, what's the wildest thing that first comes to your mind? And I was like, ooh, ferret chinchilla hybridization.
Next time, Chauncey will tell us a little bit about how his chinchilla ferret hybridization experiments are going.
And, I mean, the fact that Michael picked up on that and actually wrote this great, great sketch about it, it just makes me roll with laughter every time, and it's just like he did such a great job on that. I want to be the first to create a new species of pet. By my calculations, there's a big market out there for a pet with the loyalty and obedience of a dog, but the fluffiness and stay-at-home independence of a cat.
Why, thank you. Thank you. Oh, and that whole idea of a semi-truck full of piñatas crashing on the highway really happened to Michelle, who voices Kitty Westlake.
Oh, there's candy everywhere.
I'm glad you like that.
This episode had not mentioned that it was actually based off of a real thing, sort of. Multiple real things. Which is great.
And then it has so many other layers too, like the dentist coming in. I remember, Michael sending out the call. Well, I'm kind of stuck here. The kids are there. There's the candy. What are we going to do? And that reminded me, my parents actually had a dental practice, and they used to give out like toothbrushes and stuff at Halloween, and
Oh, you're those people.
Yeah, exactly. We were those people. And somehow his call out for help with the candy, it just reminded me of that. And I made some suggestion about, well, it could be saved the day by dentists.
Somebody needs to save the children from all of this sugar, and who better than dental professionals?
And then that got us into that whole connection with this. I don't think the phrase has ever really come up on any of the shows about before I lay me down to sleep, I've lost the teeth I wish to keep.
Always remember these words. Before I lay me down to sleep, I floss the teeth I wish to keep. Dentist, away!
I mean, it's just ties in so many levels. It was great.
Yeah, the prayer of flossing, that exact quote is available in print form on our website, jollyvilleradio.com.
Yes, and it will be in my bathroom in a few months because I'm doing a pop culture reference thing in my bathroom, and so I now have it. It'll be framed. It'll be awesome. So nothing to know, but now they do, and it's just a fun little fact that'll waste space in your mind. Or how about you?
Sorry, did you say me?
Yes.
Yeah. Gosh, the one that's coming up for like up to mind and for me is like me and Michael were trying to spitball a whole bunch of like Robert Cheerful, like ridiculous things to be considered fancy. And so like, I don't know, you have your basic like table set up where you've got like 4 forks, right? And like one's got 3 tines, sorry. And then you have your 4 tines. And I know that this is an audio thing, but like if you visualize like, like tick marks being like, you have 4 and then you do kind of one diagonal that makes it 5. I thought of like, it would be ridiculous to have a 5-tine fork where the 5th tine goes diagonally across all 4. And it's a thing that I keep in my mind whenever I think of like the 5-tine, luxury fork by Robert Cheerful.
5-tined forks.
That's fantastic. Oh, that's great. I don't know. Mine, I think I have 2 favorite jokes. So I write history chats, and I didn't write the first one. I didn't write the Ben Franklin one. I do not take credit for that, and I always clarify because that was a great one, but I didn't write it.
That was Thomas, I think.
Yeah. Well, Yeah, well done, Thomas. And so, so I think my favorite two actually are the Lizzie Borden one and Carl Sagan. Like all of them have been great, but I think I was able to really I don't know, they're just my favorites because you have to have favorites. But yeah, so the whole thing. So I actually didn't really know either person when I knew of them, but I didn't know them. So I've actually had to do a lot of research on them. But my favorite joke, is somebody calls in and says,
my horoscope today says that I will let go of things I no longer understand. What could that mean?
Again, astronomy is not astrology. But either way, I think your horoscope has manifested itself. You should be fine.
So that is actually, I literally pulled up a fortune cookie generator and was just like, what's the most random thing that's going to come out of it? Because I one time got a fortune cookie that said, aren't you glad you had a great meal? And that was it. And I was like, this isn't a fortune. And so I was like, there has to be other ones just like this. And so I just literally went online and found a generator and sat on it until I found it. And I was like, this is perfect. I love this. I have to go with it. So yeah, that.
How self-congratulatory of a cookie.
Right? Actually, kept it because I was just like, there's no way this is real. And I got it when I was a teenager, and it's literally just a family joke because every time we have Chinese and we open it, it'll be like, what does it say? Did it say you're glad you had a great meal? And I was like, no, it wished me something normal. It's almost like we're disappointed to get a regular one now. So yeah, so that's kind of the background on that particular. I think that's ultimately my favorite joke, just because it's rooted in this really long running gag in our family. But just and then there's been one time where my friend on New Year's got no fortune. So we just have weird luck with fortune cookies. So I was just like, I have to fit this in some capacity. So I'm really glad I wrote about astrology for an astronomer. So
speaking of that Lizzie Borden one, there's one of the lines where I think that Anderson Millingsley, who's voiced by Matt Waite, says something like,
so did you do it?
Do what?
Kill your parents.
Oh, it's a real tragedy. But who's to say, really?
You are?
The state never found anyone guilty. So I guess we'll never know.
Thank you.
He's so excited, and then he gets so creeped out. Thank you.
Because for background, I was like, okay, so because I'd had this thought in my mind, but I was like, well, I don't really know how creepy we want Jollyville to get, because it's pretty clean and light and upbeat. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna write this one, but it's not awful, but it's just like asking a murderer, hey, did you murder him? So I'm really glad he delivered it really well, because I was just like, I need somebody to ask point blank, just to make it really awkward and have it kind of just really lean into the theme of history chats and just how everything just goes off the rails. And I wanted it fairly early on, so I'm really glad everybody liked it. So yeah, so thankfully Michael said, hey, this is a good idea, let's go run with it, because I was like, this is a little too on the nose.
Well, speaking of creepier ones, in the Halloween show we had, there was the Dr. Volution, who is the hypnotist selling hot tubs. And that was something that was inspired by an experience my friend had. A friend of mine was telling me about buying his hot tub. And he was like, the hot tub salesman had to have been a hypnotist.
The Dr. Volution Clinical Hypnosis Studio is located on Jollycoff Highway, next to the Hot Tub Emporium.
They had these very flashy ways. He said, the guy brought a piece of paper, says, there are numbers on these papers, and I'm going to circle the prices. And then showed him the price, and he's like, "What do you?" And it's like this, like obviously playing mind games, right? Obviously, and so I thought, wouldn't that be so much fun to switch it in reverse, and you have a hypnotist who's using that to sell the hot tubs.
It'd be great. I love it. So any other inspiration or stories or things you want to share that the listeners may find funny or?
I think my original Peggy Breaker photo is on the Jollyville website. Yeah, like as far as our cast. I was doing like these goofy, just like I was really bored in quarantine, and like at first I thought like, oh, I need a vacation, but I'm stuck in quarantine. So like I made like, you know, like a fake photo shoot of me in France. And I like dressed up for it, and I don't really remember what came over me, but I decided I was gonna do, I don't know, just like this kind of B-52s get up with like monster hair and like, you know, like really like high-waisted pants, and just like draw on my own like, you know, like cigarette lines and like crow's feet, and do this whole get up to be like this grumpy lady who, you know, like had like casserole and just like smoked and drank all the time. And I did this photo shoot, and I just, it was such a whim. It was really strange, and I'm sure I'm very strange for doing it, but I sent the picture to Michael, and it came with this write-up of like, it was gonna be a cold day in hell if Kitty was gonna win this year's casserole bake-off. And I wasn't expecting for that to like really take off and become an episode.
But best inspiration ever, apparently.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I remember too, because I think right around that time, I think Jollyville Radio was like an idea. It was like, I feel like we're going to do, like, we need to have an interest meeting coming up. I would love to have like a script for the different people to read through and see what it was going to be like. And it was like, as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, we gotta do that. Oh, now I got to censor myself. Now we've got to,
never mind.
Yeah, whatever. But yeah, that. Yep.
That's awesome.
So I want to give a shout out to the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation as well as an inspiration. Actually, really, I should give a shout out to a particular announcer who I've been for months racking my brains to try to come up with the name of, and I haven't, which is I'm very sorry for. But one of the episodes, Me Me My Mo Moo, which is all about diction and enunciation with Chauncey and a voice expert. There's a little part in that where part of it is justified by a line about reading about the difference between guerrillas, which are, you know, commando illegitimate militaries, and gorillas, the hairy mean beasts. Consider the headline: "The fate of the guerrilla poachers is unknown after they stumbled upon a guerrilla encampment." That's like for real with one of my favorite radio announcers ever. Was on a long running show on the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. And there was a discussion about how diction and enunciation were so important for radio. And he used that example of guerrilla versus gorilla as an example of how people should be able to hear the difference between things that you say. And that stuck with me. I mean, that must have been sometime early 80s. And I really wish I could remember the name of that broadcaster, but it was a great example. And that was one that just popped to my mind one day and actually helped form the inspiration for that Me Me My Mo Moo episode.
That's awesome. I love that. Any other inspiration? I mean, I have a random thing because I also write turkeys and icing, and so the one with Skylar and apple picking, it was the interests and literally and cooking pancakes was something someone said on television. It was like, I don't remember. It was a competition thing. It was a 14-year-old girl, and it was like something and cooking pancakes, and I was like, that's ridiculous. Why would you say that on national television? I must use this. Not that cooking pancakes isn't bad. It's a wonderful hobby, and everybody should make more pancakes. But I was just like, this is such an odd thing. You've made it to the final round, and that's what you want people to know about you? Yes. So I may have built an entire character around that little premise. So.
There's I think this is just like my COVID cabin fever angst. But like I keep thinking about like what would Jollyville Live look like, either like in person, or there's a lot of theaters that are doing like Zoom shows. You know, like how cool would that be to like do this live, or like, I mean, we could. I don't know if it's not that it's impossible by any means. I just think it would take a certain like concerted effort to do like a specific thing. But
yeah, if we did like a short, instead of recording all of them, we did like one segment or something live.
Yeah. Or if we just got the rights to War of the Worlds and just performed War of the Worlds as Jollyville Radio.
Yeah.
Like,
Cool.
It'd be fun.
But I was thinking about how something could happen with something happened and the bubble factory just kind of Willy Wonka'd itself.
There's bubbles everywhere.
With the car they go through and it's all the bubbles and they're just like, whoa, the fizzy machine. I don't remember what it's called. I recently watched this movie, but I don't remember.
The schnozberries taste like schnozberries. Alrighty. Well, thanks everybody. This is really fun. I mean, I just want to say thanks for being a part of this. This has been a blast, and it's been really fun to hang out with y'all and do this.
Yeah, this is a lot of fun. Thank you.
Likewise. Yep. So everybody be safe this week.
Yes.
You
Happy
too. Happy Thanksgiving. Ah!